Hello again. The overwhelming response to the Ghost Army breakdown has compelled me to create this one. You're only making it harder for yourselves. As for this series to continue, we're going to need even more positivity. In this video, we're breaking down the Swarm spell. I don't know why I do this, but here's what the game tells us about the spell. Swarm creates a cloud of stinging insects, which will attack enemy followers and buildings. If a swarm attacks an enemy follower, he will run away from the cloud of insects. If the swarm attacks a building, any followers inside will be forced out and away from the settlement. The swarm will also cause some damage to enemy followers. I can explain it better. Useful for breaking through enemy defenses or holding an advance towards your settlement, Swarm is a diverse spell that is used to terrify enemy followers, sending them panicking in several directions. A group of bees, swasps, and or locusts will roam around the targeted area, damaging and scaring everyone except for the shaman. She's got stones. We've established that Swarm is used to interrupt enemy followers. Let's look at a variety of scenarios where casting Swarm will be a useful choice of spell. So, in no particular order, except for the order I wrote them down, in the order of which I wrote them down, you can shake enemy followers off the shaman quickly. Whilst Blast is normally the go-to spell in this instance, if your shaman is in a hurry, Swarm is the fastest way to clear a path. Very useful when you're trying to get deeper into an opponent's base and cast your devastating spells. When an abundance of firewalkers are converging on your shaman, you can immediately scatter them thanks to the greater range of Swarm. This gives you a moment to breathe and contemplate your next move. Perhaps you don't like what your enemies or allies' followers are currently doing. Swarm is a low-cost spell for a simple interruption towards their task. If a swarm roams around the vicinity of a building, anyone inside will come running out screaming, vacating the building in the process. Even shamans will react this way, making this a popular strategy for clearing occupied towers. Swarm is a perfect counter to an array of ghost followers. Barring the shaman, all ghost units will instantly vanish when affected by a swarm. Swarm causes followers to jump straight out of vehicles. They'll even jump to their deaths if travelling over water. If you find your settlement overrun by enemy preachers, swarms are great for interrupting them and buying you much needed time to send your own followers to prevent the preachers from coercing more men, or allow your shaman to get within range to cast blast or smack them with a staff. Panic swarming is also a viable tactic. You hear your enemy but you don't see them, Swarm will affect invisible followers as well as enemy spies. And of course, when you encounter the magical shield spell, Swarm can still affect protected followers when the swarm touches them. Time for the section of the breakdown that caused the video to take 8 months longer than it should have. Let me know if it was worth it. The first and primary investigation, and the one responsible for the massive delay to this video, is finding out if Swarm has a pattern. To test this, I had my shaman cast the Swarm spell 12 times without moving her or the camera. Thanks to not having a clue on how to motion track the swarm whilst simultaneously drawing a line on the screen, I marked where the swarm was at that moment every 2 seconds until it dissipated. You are bearing witness to my graphical expertise. The pattern that you should notice here is that once the swarm is cast, it will head to the right of the screen, or in Populous it heads northwest of the world. The fourth cast appears to be an anomaly here, but in fact, it just heads to another direction much sooner than the others. It does head northwest initially. To see if this was at all related to the caster's view, I rotated the camera 180 degrees and cast Swarm again. We immediately noticed that Swarm moves northwest when cast. Next, I wondered if it would change if cast by another player. Same result. I wondered if the Swarm initially seeked out mana. In this case, it would be Red's population, which was northwest of where the spell was cast. The Swarm spell still heads northwest. Now I meant business. I tracked the initial direction of 4 swarms cast together 3 times, and would you guess? They all head northwest when cast. I even moved my shaman to see if it had an effect. It did not. So you're probably thinking exactly what I was thinking at this point. Swarm will start heading northwest and then it will go where it pleases. Well, we're only about half of a half right. I did some additional testing off screen, and it turns out that the initial direction depends entirely on the tile that it is cast, and will always have the same initial direction when cast on that tile. What determines which tiles have which directions appears to be completely random. So in summary, if cast on the same tile, it will always head in one direction before randomly spreading. Unfortunately, this information is never going to help you manipulate Swarm in game, and will not know the full extent of its mechanics without hiring a research team or speaking to the game's developers. The next thing I wanted to find out is how far the swarm will travel. Out of all the casts, the spell went no further than this fancy circle. Each brave here represents 1 tile, the swarm goes no further than 7 tiles in any direction, or in a 7-tile radius. Next up was the length of time men flee for once affected by the swarm. I tested this a few times and found the average time to be a little over 6 seconds. How much damage does a swarm do? Well, with 1 hit they take around 1/8 of their HP in damage. When hit again whilst already fleeing, they will take the same amount of damage. However, take note that they do start to regenerate HP immediately after being injured. I already said Shamans are not affected by swarm, but do they still take damage? The answer is no. I also mentioned that spies will flee from swarms, and upon testing, this is true, and they also reveal their true identity when affected. Something I was unsure about here: do followers return to their task once they stop fleeing from the swarm? We have a brave here working on building a tower who has just been swarmed. Once it wears off, you will notice that the brave returns to work. Casting swarm doesn't cause men to be idle then, and followers continue as if nothing happened, albeit slightly more worse for wear. And finally, does swarm affect bloodlusted followers? It does, and all the previous statistics apply. Though note that bloodlusted men do have a much higher HP pool. Oh look! The wiki has had a graphical upgrade! Fancy! First up is the mana cost. 400 points of mana is required to cast a single swarm. Let's see what the mana den has to show us. Velkommen til mana den. 20 braves who are idling around generate enough mana to cast a swarm in 1 minute and 36 seconds. 99 braves in 25 seconds, and 199 idle braves in 12.9 seconds. On the flip side, when they put in the graft, 20 braves will generate enough mana in 32.3 seconds, 99 braves in 7.1 seconds, and 199 working braves will generate enough mana to cast a single swarm in 3.3 seconds. There appears to be 4 shots, and if it were vodka, I'd already be embarrassing myself on the dance floor. Thankfully, it's just swarm, and the only terrified onlookers will be enemy followers. We're told the spell's range is 12. Here in this brand spanking new spellcasting range, we have 5 targets, each labelled with the 5 different spell ranges in the game. If you're unsure, they are 6, 8, 10, 12, and 16, and each number is representative of the distance of tiles from the shaman's location. The tile that the shaman is stood on counts as 1. Swarm shares a spell range with lightning, making it joint second farthest reaching spell in the game, as shown here by our shaman casting a spell at 4 of the 5 targets. If you missed the old overlay, don't worry, here it is in the globe view. Don't forget to like for this sick overlay. Now we're going to disprove the wiki by taking a look at the spell duration. It says that the duration is 15 seconds, but from timing a series of casts from earlier, we discovered that the average length is actually 16.4 seconds. Now for my favourite part, and for another chance to disprove the populous wiki. Spell incantation. The wiki believes it to be Wunaga, but whoever wrote this article has lost the plot. It's clearly Unaga, probably spelled the same, but without the W. Pronounced U-Na-Ga.
Unaga, 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 Unaga.
Are you with me on the wiki? Let me know. You'll first witness the spell in use on level 2, Night Falls. Here you will also unlock the spell for yourself to use throughout the campaign. In multiplayer games, this is a standard spell and is used in a wide variety of situations, so have it ready at your disposal for us to swarm each swarm world out there.